What a win for the Blues last night. It makes me even more excited for the season to begin. I'm going to talk more about it here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a happy Friday, October 4th, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk about that great win last night, one last time, and what exactly that means. And of course, my favorite Friday segment, Are We Feeling Blue? I cannot believe it's already Friday. I cannot believe the regular season is now 4 days away. Totally insane how fast time is going, but we have a lot to get to on today's episode, and I cannot wait. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Wow. Wow is all I can say because last night's win still has me buzzing. Now, the thing is about last night's win, you might say, Hale, come on. It's preseason, doesn't really matter as much. And I understand that, but it was more of an NHL lineup than anything. It really was an NHL lineup. We talked about that in yesterday's episode for Dallas as well. So I think it was just one of those games where, it mattered, right? So I was quite excited about that. And it mattered not in a sense of, standings or anything like that, but it mattered in the sense of confidence for this upcoming season. And now I am seeing the Blues that I know and love. So just to recap yesterday's game, I was incredibly happy about the 4-3 OT win. In the first period, it was kind of more Dallas in possession, to be honest with you. But after an awful penalty called on Texier for holding, which again I thought was kind of like BS. If I'm allowed to say that. I did not agree. However, that's what happened, and Dallas scored. Luckily, though, in the second period, again, that third line was strong as Matthew Joseph was able to get the Blues on the board 1-1. And assisting him was Kapanen and Braden Shen. I'm telling you, that third line was on fire. Third period, Philip Broberg was able to get his first preseason goal. And he was assisted by my boy Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors. Oh my goodness. My first liners, Thomas and Neighbors. I will talk more about Robert Thomas. Then Kapanen was able to get a goal. I'm telling you, that third line, and he was assisted by Broberg and Justin Folk. So now the Blues are up 3-1. However, Dallas was able to score 2 goals. So Dallas's third goal, by the way, they scored it literally with 40 seconds left of the final frame. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But we go to OT. About 1 minute and 43 seconds into OT, beautiful play. Thomas weaves it up and down on, I want to say, the left side of the board, passes it over to Jordan Kyrou, and Ruzi is able to get it right in, and the Blues win 4-3. So it was quite the win for St. Louis last night. It just made me excited. And I think a win like that, an OT win like that, is what gets me, more amped up about the season beginning soon. Now, do I think the Blues could have done a better job preventing Dallas from getting opportunities with that late of the game left? Sure, absolutely. But we knew the defense was going to be a work in progress. And I think that's something that we all kind of accepted as a fan base. However, the offense did look a lot better last night, and I feel better about our leaders like Braden Shen. I feel better about him. I feel better about, Thomas and Kyrou. It just, Kyrou did have turnovers in the game. I'm not going to deny that and say that he played a perfect game because he didn't. There was times where I'm like, what is he doing? And I literally tweeted that at one point. I'm like, what is Kyrou doing? However, I do think that the Blues were able to really solidify themselves, and I was really proud of Matthew Joseph as well, because, again, he stood out last night, and I think that's important for him, especially trying to make a roster spot. You need to stand out. In games like this, you cannot blend in. You need to give it your all. So I was very impressed with how the win went last night, and most importantly, I think that this team just looks solid. Drew Bannister said, I thought right from the start of the first period, we played well. We were competitive. We worked for each other. There was a lot of good things in that game, and that I think we can take that and build on. Things that we didn't do in the previous game, I thought was there as a group, but our leadership everybody got on board and a lot of positive things about tonight. So that's exactly what I was saying. The past game that they played, it was not good hockey. And there's no excuses for that. I think you're at the point, especially in preseason now, where you kind of know who's going to be on the team for the most part. You can't have that laziness. You need to gain that confidence. You're about to play a regular season game, okay? A regular season game literally in 4 days. So there's no more excuses of laziness. There's no more excuses of not executing. You need to, and the thing is, I don't want to be negative, and I feel like that's the one thing that I'm a little bit frustrated about is the negativity. But I mean, the Blues didn't really give much during preseason to be this excited about. Now, I understand that the power play looks better against Columbus a couple games prior, not the game that was awful. But at the same time, I think that they just have to continue showing up. So that was important. I think the cool thing about last night was, again, was that Tomer and Ruzi just solidifying the strengths that they have. It just was really good. And I know Casper Kapanen is really fighting. And I know that, he's playing hard. And he said, I felt pretty good. I think it shows once you kind of get into the rhythm. I think it's the main thing for the body to feel good and fresh. And I think that just showed us today. And, Kapanen had a goal and assist. Obviously, that's big. So did Philip Broberg. He did as well. So, again, you need to make yourself stand out. You are so close to this opening night roster. And if you want to make it, especially with, Zachary Bolduc not playing last night, that's a name that, might take your roster spot if we're being honest with you. Um, Last night, Matthew Joseph was talking about Kapanen and saying he was good. He was great. He was on the forecheck using his speed and he was going to the net. It was fun to play with those two tonight. I felt like we were hunting pucks, creating a lot of turnovers in the ozone. So that line again, it was Kapanen, Joseph, and Captain. Well, it was Braden Shen's line. He was centering. But it was a beautiful line. So that was my favorite line of the night. Um, Kapanen also went on to say, I thought we played a great game. I don't think we spent too much time in our zone, which is always a plus. Mojo, I guess that's what they call Matthew Joseph, and Schenner is Captain Brendan Shen, are two great players. I thought we had some good chemistry and it was a good game. So it just overall was quite nice, and I was happy about that. Um, so anyways, that was positive. I also thought Boosh also did well. Listen, Boosh centering, obviously, then you have Texier and Jordan Kyrou. They did a good job in the second line tonight. And that line also set up a lot of good plays. So I was happy about that. Drew Bannister said on that line, they had a couple of really good shifts and they were able to build momentum off of it. They didn't get rewarded, but you play that way consistently, you're going to get more opportunities and the puck's going to go in the net. They stuck with what they were doing and they did it well. I thought they managed the puck well when they were down low. I thought they did a good job down low, holding onto pucks and making things happen and creating a cycle, a more willingness to shoot by our whole entire group. So again, very positive. I think that second line was strong. Now I understand not every game you're going to be able to get the puck behind the net, and that is okay. But the way that they played, coach is right. You set the tone. Philip Broberg last night had a good game as well with his 1 goal and 1 assist, giving the Blues a 2-1 lead. And I think that, again, a player that has a lot of eyes on him, Bannister said, I thought he was outstanding. Our whole D corps, their gaps, keeping pucks alive. There wasn't a lot of space for Dallas players out there. And to have that size and range, great stick. I thought our D did a great job in transition, just getting the puck to our forwards as quickly as possible so we could turn and attack. As a group, I thought they all played well, but I thought Philip had a really good night here tonight. And I agree with Coach on that one. Obviously, when it comes to my favorite player on the Blues, it is my boy Robert Thomas because it is always Robert Thomas season. Ayo, you already know. But last night, again, Thomas playing with Neighbors and Holloway honestly just looked really, really solid. And I could see that line 100% just being an NHL opening night roster line, right? Like, that is a line where I feel confident, and I really love Holloway playing up with not Kyru, playing up with Tomer and Neighbors, and I like Kyru kinda taking a step back and playing with Boosh. I think that Boosh really does bring out a lot of good things in Jordan Kyrou, and, I am intrigued to see what happens once maybe they fit in Zachary Bolduc. We'll see. But I was actually really impressed with the line combos last night, and, I cannot wait to see what they do against Seattle. So, before they play Seattle, they have one more preseason game, and I'll get into that. But first, I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's number one sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play by play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Okay, listen. If you're somebody like me, you're a little impulsive, a little indecisive, can't make up your mind, you want to place a bet in the middle of the game, FanDuel lets you have that option. So this Sunday, tons of 1 o'clock slate games, week 5 of the NFL season already. Just go to FanDuel as the game is happening and place your bets. I love betting this way. It makes me feel so much more in control, and FanDuel is the absolute best. So highly recommend FanDuel. Again, FanDuel.com, code locked on NHL. The Blues have one last final preseason game, and the whole NHL schedule, by the way, doesn't make sense to me. Okay, it really does not make sense to me. Like, you had the New Jersey Devils today and Buffalo Sabres playing in Czech for their global series, and the Devils won 4-1. And you might be wondering, oh, that's fun. Well, what if I told you that was a regular season game? That is right. The Blues and Kraken, they do play, however, the first regular season game in the continental US. However, today's game was the first regular season game of the NHL season. Yeah, I know. I know what you're thinking. That's weird because there's teams like the Blues that still have preseason games left as the regular season is beginning. It's weird, doesn't make sense. Hi, welcome to hockey. You also have other teams that finish their preseason maybe last night and they don't play until Friday night. This does not make sense. I always said this before that 7 preseason games just seems like too many. Maybe have 3, 4, but you don't need that many preseason games to do it like they do in football. I'm personally not a huge fan because majority of those preseason games, it's really the AHL and juniors kids just getting a chance to go on the ice and shoot around in that kind of environment, which is fine. However, you don't really see an NHL lineup until the last couple games, if even. So I just think kind of it's a waste. But I don't make the decisions. That's on Gary Bettman. However, the Blues did do some things today. So obviously they play, Chicago tomorrow. And it's the final preseason game. It's gonna be played in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it will be on NHL Network, by the way. So I don't have to do that stupid Dallas stream with the whole VPN thing that I had to do, which was awful, by the way. Do not recommend that. That was literally one of the worst viewing experiences of my life. So the Blues, they did call up some guys today from Springfield. Dvorsky is a name. McGurcher, I like. McGing. And Hunter Skinner, I like. Some of the guys I don't really care much about. And it's not like a diss. I just, not going to do it. But I'm happy for Dvorsky that he gets another chance to play a preseason game. But anyways, I know he does belong in Springfield. I'm allowed to have an opinion. Okay. I still like him as a player. I'm just saying my opinion on that. So let's go talk about this final preseason game for the St. Louis Blues. I do expect it to be all 8 of those players that got called up to be playing. I think it's going to be more of like I know it's not going to be like an all AHL lineup, but I do expect it to be kind of not as strong as last night's was, if that's a better word for that one. But at the same time, I am excited to see what happens tomorrow night. So let's go talk more. So what's already expected, as I said, a lot young lineup, as I just mentioned with the names. I think this is gonna be one of those games where it's gonna be kind of just get it done with. I hate to say that, but there's really not much that we're gonna look for. I mean, maybe fit in Zach bold Duke tomorrow and maybe just tweak some of the lines a little bit. I don't really see this being a game where we're going to look back on and say, oh, yeah, this was a pivotal preseason game. I think that Coach Bannister has done a really good job about being open and honest about where he sees certain players. I think that we kind of, as a fan base, have a sense of what's going to happen. Now, do I want to beat Chicago? Obviously, the next time we do play the Blackhawks is honestly the weirdest date because it's the 31st, even though that's the Winter Classic, which doesn't make sense to me because the Winter Classic should be on January 1st, but they have it on obviously December 31st. It's weird. I don't like it. Not a fan of it. I hate that we also don't play one of our biggest rivals until the Winter Classic, which is so weird to me. I know it's October, so I know it's only a couple months away, but still, like, I would like to play Chicago at least once before that, but I don't make the schedule, and the schedule literally sucks. This is also a very random side note about tomorrow night's game. I kind of want to see Joel Hofer get the start, just because I want him just to gain some more confidence and just to be able to head into the season with more so than he played in that very bad game. So I would like that. I think Benner, I mean, he looks great in net, but I think that just giving Joel Hofer the start will just help with confidence. I do expect him to start actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, why would they not have him start? But I think tomorrow night's game is just kind of getting it done with, which is kind of boring, right? It doesn't make for a fun conversation with you and I to talk about. But as I said, this is the problem with preseason games. You make it so there's 7 preseason games in a season, in a preseason, and it gets boring, okay? There's not a whole lot of NHL teams that are playing all of their main guys in the final preseason game. One, you don't want to risk injury, which is the very obvious answer, right? Two, you don't want to tire them out. It just doesn't make sense. So my question is this: is it bringing in that much money to where you need to have 7 preseason games? And this is the whole thing I was talking about with, the expansion, right? I talked about the potential expansion of 2 teams in yesterday's episode with the board of governors meeting. I understand wanting to make money. I understand that that's what, Gary Bettman in the league wants to do. However, at the same time, what's gonna motivate me? Now, I'm a fan, I'm gonna tune in, I do a daily podcast. I'm just speaking as a person that may not be as intrigued, right? What's gonna make somebody tune in to watch a final preseason game knowing that most of the guys that are gonna be starting opening night will not be playing? And I hate to be that way, right? Because that sounds kind of blunt and harsh, but it is the reality. I mean, last night's game felt like a regular season game. Like it really did. I even posted on my own personal Instagram, it's Robert Thomas season. I'm just the biggest Robert Thomas fan. And I don't know, just something about Thomas and Jordan Cairo playing together. And this is the thing. I, okay, I'm going to go on a whole other rant. There's a lot of hockey thoughts, okay? I love that Holloway is playing with, Thomas and Neighbors last night. I do. I really do. However, there's something so special about the chemistry that Thomas and Kyrou have on the ice with each other that just brings joy to my life. So last night, it just was a great sequence of play. And oh my gosh, to win an OT like that. I mean, if you think about the Dallas Stars, they went into the game 6-0 in preseason. The Blues, they were like, "You know what? You're not gonna be undefeated. We're gonna beat you, and that's that." So, for the Blues, I take that as a W. Like, they honestly usually do really well against the Dallas Stars. There's always this competitiveness between the 2 teams. Last night, I was cracking up. So I'm laughing, but it's so funny. Fox got into a little bit of a fight with Dumba now. No penalty was called. But Nathan Walker, oh my goodness, he comes over and he's like trying to insert himself. It was funny. And I think Suter too as well kind of got a little bit, well, he scored, but it was goalie interference. But definitely the former Stars players are making their presence known. It was actually quite funny. But yeah, no, it felt like a regular season game. So one last game. I went on a bit of a rant. I began talking about last night. Last night was just so exciting. But I am happy for guys like Dvorsky that get to play in tomorrow night's game against the Chicago Blackhawks for one final preseason game. I want to let you know that you should subscribe to this channel, Locked On Blues, for all of your daily St. Louis Blues podcasts, news, information, opinions, talk, and more. I do the show 5 days a week, sometimes some bonus content, honestly, for fun, but I love talking about the Blues. I could talk about the Blues all day, every day. So that's why I do this podcast, because it allows me to talk about one of my favorite things, repping the Blue Note all the time, and I am happy to have you here. I also have zero sleep. So sometimes when I do these episodes, you might be wondering, Hale, are you drinking a lot of coffee? Is that why you're so hyped up? And the answer is no, I'm sleep deprived. So same effect. All right. Favorite Friday segment, the best Friday segment. Are we feeling blue? Now, if you asked me at the beginning of the week, okay, if you said, Hale, Monday maybe, are you feeling blue? I would say, you know what? Kind of. Because this team didn't give me much to be excited about. And, I'm not blaming the Blues necessarily for not making me feel confident, because I feel like they did have good practices. But the loss that they had against the Blue Jackets, right, wasn't good. Now, what I can say is this. After that loss against the Blue Jackets, because that was one of the worst preseason games I've seen the Blues play in quite a while, they turned things around with the Dallas Stars last night. So I went from in the beginning of the week from saying, well, this kind of sucks, to now saying, you know what? I am so ready for the season. And you can tell how happy I am right now, because I genuinely feel like this is going to be a good season for St. Louis. I got a little nervous during preseason. I got a little bit panicked. I put on the panic mode, which I always hate when people do that. When you panic during preseason, I'm like, come on, it's not that big of a deal. But I think for me, at least, I just don't want to have what happened last season, where they lose stupid games like against the San Jose Sharks, which was so unbelievably frustrating because they were the better team, the Blues, but they just did not play that way. Heading into the season, yeah, there's pressure on St. Louis to make the playoffs. I would hate for this team not to make the playoffs for a third consecutive season. Last time that happened was 2005 through 2008. So 10 years after 2008, boom, Stanley Cup champions, 2029, baby. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If the Blues want to be Stanley Cup contenders, even, they need to at least make it to the playoffs and show that they do have the ability to do so. Chances are you're not going to say to a team that missed out on the postseason, oh, yeah, you're a contending team. Usually it's those teams that do make it to the playoffs that you kind of look at the next season and say, oh, you could be a contending team. I'm just saying it how it is. So I feel good overall. How do you feel? I am curious. And does tomorrow's game have any impact on how you take this training camp? Or is it kind of just like, well, one last preseason game. Let's get it out of the way. Curious as to what you think. But I will talk to you on Monday. Oh my goodness, Monday is the day before our first game. So excited. We have regular season hockey back. We made it. We did it. And this was one of the best off seasons I had doing this podcast. And I am truly so thankful for all of you that listen, watch on YouTube, interact on Twitter, whatever. I love you guys. Like literally, I just got goosebumps. We have regular season hockey. Really curious to what that opening night roster and lineup will look like. So we'll discuss that, I am sure. And I will talk to you next week. And like always, let's go Blues.